public being like, oh my gosh, this thing might land anywhere.
3 rockets for 3 presidents, and they can all do amazing things. Or
tomorrow begins right now.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tomorrow. We have a very interesting show for you today. We've got some interesting topics about old Soviet-era probes re-entering, the potential for the National Space Council, and some Rocket Lab updates, among a few other things as well. I am very pleased to be joined today by our own Jane Higginbotham, who is still a little sick, so please offer your well wishes and good vibes and all those things so that she has a speedy recovery. We also have Ryan here, who we're very happy to have with us and just finished up an NSF stream. We also have Dutta back after celebrating last week. And we also have Jared Head here as well. So we're going to have a really interesting discussion and a lot of cool things that we want to talk about today. So thank you for being here. Welcome. Get comfortable. Get your coffee, whatever your beverages for your morning, and let's get into it. How's everybody doing?
Really awesome. But Dutta, what were you celebrating?
May the 4th be with you. Also, my anniversary.
Of course, I should have known. I did know, but I forgot.
in that order of importance.
Congratulations. In that order.
Thank you. You were a different person back then.
in more ways than one, Dutta.
Went to go see Hamilton, and it was fun. We took the kids and the in-laws and had a good old time.
Oh,
Did you bring a lightsaber?
I did not. Only in my mind.
They would have checked it at the door anyway.
They would have checked it at the door.
Yeah, I don't know if the lightsaber would have been period appropriate for Hamilton. So
No, it would be. It would be because it's from a long, long time ago.
Yes.
yes, it's true. It's true.
I'm sure you could have tweaked the too, so that it would have just done the Alexander Hamilton. Anyway, we're here to talk about space. Let's talk about space. So yesterday, it looks like that a probe that has been up there for over 50 years, one of the Venera probes, let's go to this screen instead so that we can get a full picture of that. So this is what the probe looks like, or at least a reconstruction of one of the probes. And this was kind of in the middle of the Venera program that the Soviet space program was doing in the 60s, 70s, and last one almost in the 80s. And this particular one failed. Its upper stage failed to get it on its transfer trajectory towards Venus. And so it was in this really highly elliptical orbit where it goes really far out and then comes in somewhat close to the atmosphere. And over the past 53 years, it's been slowly degrading its orbit until I do want to switch to give you a different view, to give you a little bit better idea of what it looks like. If you look in the top right-hand corner there, you can just barely make out somebody's work glove to give you a sense of scale of how big this thing is. And this was a kind of a smaller piece, too, of the bigger picture. Here's one of the early Venera probes, and you can see with this one that at the bottom, the spherical piece at the bottom is what we are looking for. That is the piece that separated from the rest of the probe and got stuck in the orbit that it has been in. And people have been tracking it for a little while, and over the past 2 years, they got a few more measurements of what it would look like. In fact, this one might be a little bit hard to see, but this was some observations that an astronomer in the Netherlands was able to take last year. And with this one, what's really interesting about it is it kind of looks like that the parachute that was meant to help it deploy in Venus's atmosphere had already deployed and has been dangling for who knows how long. And that might have just been the drogue parachute because it did have 2 different parachutes for it. But in any case, the capsule was designed to be able to withstand, not just the heat of reentry entering the Venusian atmosphere, but just Venus itself having almost 8,500 degree Fahrenheit temperature. So there's a large chance that this probe was able to survive. and they believe that the pieces from it that didn't fully deploy, and that there might have been enough of it that could survive reentry. And there was even, I mean, there was quite a few different estimations of where it would land, where it might go. But it turns out that the closest thing that people are able to figure out is that it landed off the coast of India in the Indian Ocean. So there is a couple of rumors that I've seen out there that I haven't confirmed yet, that it might even be able to still have some buoyancy and be able to float a little bit, which is crazy if that's true. In any case, they are hoping to be able to look for this a little bit and search for it. So this is a pretty mind blowing thing that has been ongoing over the past week or so, and I think that it's pretty incredible that we've been able to follow this, and that this probe that has been stuck in orbit for 53 years now has been able to re-enter, and looks like it survived re-entry. Although there's a lot of other weird footage out there of people claiming that they saw it, and it's really hard to confirm any of those at the moment. But
I don't know if you could find a place on the Earth that is more like farther away from thing.
in what do you mean, in the Indian
Like
Ocean?
what? Yeah, like landing in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
I mean, there's quite a bit of stuff that lands there. I don't know if you're being facetious or not. However, still could be a bit difficult in order to discover that. So um I don't know how many of you guys were able to follow this, but I think that this is a radical thing. um, Again, this was in the middle of the Venera program. There was quite a few different designs for the Venera probes. So we think that the images that we just showed you are correct for the model that this one was supposed to be, but also kind of hard to get, definite answers for for some of the Soviet era stuff that gets classified in the Cosmos section. And if you want to learn more information about this, you can just look up Cosmos 482, Cosmos spelled with A, and 482, to find more information and see what all of the predictions were of where they thought that this thing might land. There was quite a bit of, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I saw quite a bit of panic in the general public being like, oh my gosh, this thing might land anywhere. It could land in Brazil. It could land in Europe. Oh my goodness. And thankfully, it landed in the ocean, like most things that can survive reentry that are uncontrolled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing with this is that
Most of the world is the ocean, so
Yeah.
the thing with these old probes coming back down is that they're uncontrollable, right? So even the most accurate predictions we had right up until like the final point that it was caught is like this time plus or minus 3 hours. Plus or minus 3 hours. That's like 4 orbits worth of places that this thing could land on. And along these orbits were places like Houston, New York, the entirety of Europe, India, Australia, like Perth, Australia. These were places which were in the direct line of the orbits that this thing could have re-entered in. Luckily, it appears that the tracking has detected it, or rather the last time it was caught, how should I word this? It was caught at a time, and then it wasn't caught in the same place 90 minutes later. So within the last 90 minutes, the probe has re-entered. So that's kind of how they can then give those predictions. We saw it at this spot on last orbit. We didn't see it on this orbit, which means it's re-entered somewhere previously within the orbit. So that's where those predictions have come from. But yeah, it's still kind of, it reminds me of the Long March 5 core stage that was left uncontrolled a couple of years ago. And Spain shut down like their entire air traffic system because they were worried that the core stage was gonna re-enter. Maybe that was a little bit over the top from the Spanish side, but these things, this is something we need to be very considerate of, because like Mike was saying, this thing was designed to re-enter Venus's atmosphere. If it was designed to get through Venus, it could easily get through Earth.
if
Absolutely.
Spain turned off their ATC, is this maybe why Newark didn't have radar this last week in the US? You think they just shut off their radar and oh, that joke only works if you guys realize that we had ATC issues in the US. Otherwise, it doesn't land.
Yeah,
Because
no, It's
issues
okay.
every day.
Yeah, indeed, doesn't land. So, I was going to note with Cosmos 482 here that first of all, it failed before it was able to do its departure burn for Venus, which is then when it was labeled Cosmos 482, which was very much like a hey, it didn't work. What do we call our satellites that we get up there regularly anyhow? Cosmos, cool. Just throw it on the list. Throw it on the list. And if that wasn't enough for you, 4 days after it launched in 1972, there was a re-entry of spacecraft material over New Zealand that actually made it into, if I recall correctly, basically a farmer's field, and they were able to look. They were able to actually grab the material, and it was 4 titanium spheres, which were likely propellant tanks on this vehicle. And the Soviets were like, "Huh, look at that, not ours," even though it very much obviously was from Cosmos 482. So nobody ended up having to pay for anything, which is typically how things work under international law. But the Soviets just essentially were like, "Not ours." Not ours, actually. Not ours.
I mean,
and we're somehow
technically,
able to make that happen.
To add on to that,
technically they're right. Technically, it's not the Russians; it's the Soviets, and it's
Well,
not.
this was back. So back in 1972, the
Oh,
Soviets
copy,
said that's not
copy.
ours.
Got it. Copy.
Which
Okay.
that's not really how that should work. But also, like, nobody was really going to throw a fit over it. So
I do want to show
everyone
you
in
this
New
too.
Zealand. New Zealand is like the Canada of the Southern Hemisphere. They're all polite, and they're just not.
That
gonna
dude
really
even saved
throw a fit
the
or
piece
anything,
of
so.
whatever tankage that might be and never gave it
Yeah,
to
there it
anyone.
is. Yeah, finders keepers.
Yeah.
Hope there weren't hypergalls in there.
Looks like they hopefully drained out one end. Maybe that's what all the melting that we see there is.
Uh-huh.
Oh
Yeah,
my
'cause
goodness.
Hypergalls drain very, very well and in full. They're known for not creating issues after the fact. They're known for that. Yeah.
Okay, you're definitely being facetious.
Yeah, by the way, there were a couple more of those spheres discovered several years later in New Zealand. So it's almost like it may either they all fell together, or this is one of the greatest coincidences in space junk history, and they all just kind of ganged up and said, "Look at that small island right there. Let's go for it." Which honestly, it's pretty beautiful, so I don't blame them. So
Oh,
As time goes on, we're going to have more and more stuff that just gets, naturally deorbits and comes back down. So I'm wondering if we should have a new segment on the show, like This Week in Space Junk History or something like that, talking about whatever is coming back down.
What came down this week?
we could call it "Welcome Back, Spacecraft."
Or we used to have a departures board. We'll call it Arrivals.
You're absolutely right. There seems to be a lot more of it lately than I remember in the past. Or maybe we just didn't hear about it as much. But yeah, there seems to be a lot.
Refuse
I was
rendezvous.
rooting for it. I rendezvous with refuse. Yeah, that's good. I was rooting for it to land near Perth, simply because that just seems to be a really great place. Because that's where Skylab came down at in 1979. So I was like, let's just put some more stuff there while we're at it. I'm sure nobody's gonna mind it. So
Next time we should do re-entry bingo.
Where's it gonna land? Yeah.
Yeah, where's it gonna
I
land?
like that.
Have you guys not played re-entry bingo before, right?
Well-
You put your little piece on the world where you think it's gonna come back in, and whoever gets closest gets the pot.
You need confirmation of touchdown for that, though, don't you? Like, they don't know exactly where it landed.
And everyone disagrees where it landed. So then, who do you believe?
yeah, actually,
Me, I got it.
I mean, it makes the re-entry bingo game even more fun. So you don't know who won.
well, we do know one thing, which is that it landed between 52 degrees north and 52 degrees south latitude. So that narrows it down a bit.
It's
Still a
been
pretty wide
80
swath.
years.
Oh man. But yeah, this is I think that that's a great idea to do those sortings and have everyone kind of bet on what they think it's going to be, and at the very least, whoever gets closest or wins will get the bragging rights. So I love that idea. I think we should do that for the next ones.
By the way, I just want to say I looked it up on Wikipedia real quick just to have everything set, and I am amazed at the fact that they have noted for the reentry, the descent craft, they have noted that it is 495 kilograms, which is 1,019 pounds, and then my favorite one on here is that they also threw in 77.9 stone in order to say how much it weighs, because the famous engineering. Unit of weight for engineering stone. So
I didn't realize we had medieval peasants who were following this type of stuff. That's
apparently
news to me.
Yeah, I sure was surprised to find out about this. So
If you came across a piece of space junk that landed in your vicinity or your proximity and you were able to take possession of it, what would you do with it?
Put it on the mantelpiece.
Definitely. Put it on the mantelpiece. Maybe give it a little stand
Breathe
with a
in the
plaque so
hydrazine.
that you can know what a little bit of hydrazine. I actually have a couple of pieces of concrete I keep meaning to make a little stand for, and Starbase Launchpad #1, and put it up on the shelf. It just looks like a piece of concrete, but it is special.
I would if it had been if that Venera lander had landed on my backyard mostly intact, I think it would make a great table. So,
Why? Wait,
good.
no, I don't. Why does everyone want to turn space stuff into a table? Right?
I don't know. It
SME
looks cool.
tables and
This-
Not
yeah,
everything.
This is a point of
I want-
particular pain with Jamie.
I personally of space stuff want a nozzle so that I could have like a backyard fireplace somewhere, and the nozzle can be where we do the burning of stuff in it for that.
I will say an inverted nozzle on the ground that's like a fire pit sort of thing or like a grill would be kind of awesome. Especially if you could get like a good fire coming up. That would look pretty cool. That would be awesome.
Yep. My idea is everyone's to take. So you're welcome. Enjoy, everybody.
I mean, it would be the world's most expensive barbecue. If you think about it.
Yes, and don't use the actual propellants for it either. It's just going to be too hot.
It's not just too hot, but think of the velocity too. Because you would light the engine, and if you had it on the top, all the heat would just go boosh. You're like, let's light up the grill, and you see the mock diamonds form.
It's a reverse suborbital launch.
Hey, who wants a burger? And then you could just gimbal it so that way you could just fling burgers in different directions.
You have a pre-grill sequence where it goes through this gimbaling procedure to make sure.
Grill wiggles.
I'm sorry. I'm medicated. I hit my skiff button earlier, which is why I off the screen to go take more medication. And so, I'm in a weird headspace today. I'm sorry, everyone.
I gotta say, Mac.
You could have
Mac
active
in the
cooling
chat
on
room
it
is
so you
right.
don't burn your shins.
Mac in the chat room is right, though. Anything is better than MDF to make a table. So,
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the old studio
My
was
lungs
made
are
of
half
MDF.
MDF.
And Dutta just cut everything wherever he could, right? And so in the old studio space, until the day we left, and even probably to this day, we found MDF dust everywhere. And you could, no matter how much vacuuming you did, no matter how much clean you did, that facility was infected with MDF. I never thought there was anything worse or more contagious than glitter. MDF dust.
Whenever they
you thought the leftovers of White Sands in Colombia was still appearing years later. Let me tell you.
to be a fly on the wall when the owner came in to inspect the place, being like, "Did they spread asbestos everywhere? What is going on?"
You know, I never expected to get, I know we're way off topic. I'm sorry. I never thought we'd get our deposit back, but we got it back in full.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Holy crap. That's
Wow.
impressive. And Jamie died.
Jamie froze. Darn.
I mean, that was a pretty
Maybe the
exciting
landlord
thing.
is watching and just discovered that there was MDF everywhere, and then I don't know.
finally got the confession they needed.
So continuing on non-space related topics, what happened there was I run everything in Orlando off of a MacBook Pro, and when it's not in use, I will often leave my MacBooks like sideways and kind of leaning against a nightstand or whatever it is, so that I can, reach down and grab it if necessary for whatever. Well, inadvertently one day I knocked water over the side of the thing, and it went into the USB-C ports and the power ports and everything on the MacBook. And this happened like right before a show. And so I was like, oh God, I hope not. And I kind of blew out the water, and then I plugged the cable in, and it was like, no, water detected, no joy. And so I'm like, crap. And then I realized, oh, this is a MacBook Pro, not a MacBook Air. There are USB-C ports on the other side. So I took that cable out like a freaking idiot. That is not the word I was going to use. And without using a different cable, the cable that I just put into this wet USB-C port, which is now a wet cable, I moved it to the other side into a good USB port and made the dry USB-C port now a wet USB-C port. So I nuked like all of the ports. And ever since then, once in a blue moon, the entire USB-C subsystem, like everything that is USB-C connected, will just go goosh and go down. So I'll lose my teleprompter, I'll lose my camera, I lose my microphone, everything goes down. And then I have to scramble really quickly and reset, because it goes down and it comes back. And I got to scramble and reset all the devices really quickly. So now you know. And it doesn't matter what port I use, because I made them all. It's a Ryan story.
That's not
it is
fair.
a Ryan
That's not
story.
fair. My
that is
laptop
something
works
Ryan would do.
perfectly fine. My laptop works perfectly fine.
Maybe that's your problem, Jamie. You didn't use Ryan's solution. You need to put that bad boy in a bag of rice.
Yeah, because we were literally minutes away, right? And so I didn't have time. I'm just like, oh my God, whatever I need to do. I was thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna grab my iPad sort of thing. And like, for those who don't know, EV Mux is hot garbage on an iPad. It's kind of hot garbage on all platforms, but it's really hot garbage on an iPad. So yeah, there you go. That's my story.
Right on. Right.
I know. I'm reading the chat room. They're all judging me. I think the solution here is I'm just going to get like an iMac in this space. I'm going to get some sound treatment and iMac and everything. It'll be great. You guys like the space. But I am in Orlando, because I know you all like to use my background to figure out where I am. I'm in Orlando this week. It's just that instead of having to set everything up in the living room, because I really do not feel good today, I was like, too much effort. And so I just moved it into the office, and I'm like, this will be fine. So I'm probably just going to do them from here from now on.
Well, yeah, we got to get you some more decorations and stuff, and get you a proper set there. It's gonna look great.
Yeah, I will take a picture and post it on X of like what it looks like in front of me, because it's a little hilarious with all the pillows to try to cut down on the. I'm gonna do that. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now, as I assume we're moving on to the next topic.
Have the MDF delivered. I will cut it in place and make your set.
Oh God. Actually, that might be kind of cool. I got a little bit of room here. I might take you up on that, Dutta.
Get a little mini window back, little mini space station window back.
Guy, can you imagine the neighbors as you're like... Here you go. For everyone who follows me on X, I'm uploading that picture now.
It's okay. It's Florida. There's worse things have happened to people.
It's not
There's
like your
worse
gator
things in
got
the air
loose.
filters already.
Although we're gonna have to write. I can see the news story on it already. California man with Dutta going there to do it. Gotta have some specificity on who's doing the crazy.
Oh man, California
Florida
man does
woman.
something
Florida
crazy.
woman hires California man.
Yes.
Breaking news. Breaking news. So, something that is interesting that we can do a little bit of speculating and maybe throw out a couple of names that we might like for this is that the White House has decided not to do away with the National Space Council. For those who remember, during the last Trump presidency, they revived that. It's kind of been a thing off and on over the decades, and they revived that and got a bunch of experts, industry leaders, and astronauts together to help the administration and NASA decide what their policy should be and what directions they should go. And then it was kind of done away with. It wasn't exactly canceled, but it was just kind of ignored and done away with during the Biden administration. And there was a little bit of talk of like, hey, are we going to do that again this time around, or nah, not really? What's up? And so there was a little bit of an announcement this week of no, we're not going to cancel it. We are going to try to keep it going, but there hasn't been a whole lot yet for whether or not they are going to reassemble that and whether or not Vice President J.D. Vance is going to head that up or not. I can tell you, though, that probably the number one person who's most excited about this is Homer Hickam, and is happy to rejoin the National Space Council and share his opinions on what the direction of NASA and the space program should be. So I figured we would kind of go around. Who do we think that we would like to see on that? Is there, I mean, probably to get the elephant in the room out of the way, I think that Elon probably has his hands in enough stuff right now that he probably would need to join that again. Although he was exactly a member before, but he did show up to several meetings before to kind of represent SpaceX and do that. So, what do we think here? Who do we think would be good people to have on that and would be able to share their wisdom and help us craft the right direction for NASA, at least over the next 3.5, 4 years?
I mean, I guess my question before we get into who is like, does the council have any real impact here, right? Because like, it's all going to come down to what Congress says anyhow. It's all going to come down to dollars, and so the Space Council can make recommendations, but they have no real power, right? Like they can't actually do. It's like I feel like it's just like a
Sure,
little
but
like here's a show.
But is there a history of the National Space Council's advice being adhered to in Congress, and Congress allocating funds based on their recommendations?
It's a great question. I don't know. Does anyone know?
At least this last time around, I feel like they were pretty influential in helping to kind of craft the Artemis program. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was ongoing on already, but they kind of helped set in stone what the process should be for it, and coming up with the Artemis Accords. Not every single recommendation was followed, but it seemed like quite a few of their recommendations were followed at the time between 2016 and 2020. So whether
There's going to be a beautiful irony because it was the Trump administration that created like Artemis and whatnot, and now I bet the Trump administration is going to come in and they're going to be like, right? Like they don't. I think they're done with Artemis now, right? So, man, this is a weird time we live in.
super weird time.
Don't, man.
Super weird time.
I
think the concept is good. I think if you can put scientists that want. I'll do it because I can feel Jamie looking at it. If you can put scientists in place that are after exploration, and people that have kind of the grand picture in mind, and kind of along the lines with the 10-year plan sort of thing, where this is your opportunity to be able to establish the roadmap for what you want to happen in space, and indicate that as your desire in an optimal world. And then you can get people in Congress to lobby to have different aspects of it in their congressional districts and whatever, and then they can allocate funds in order to be able to happen. Like that's you have to have a plan in order to be able to have money, to have a need for money. And if you can convince people that your plan is sound, then you can convince people to spend money with your plan. So I think this is a good idea in concept, but I worry about it being politicized too much and the wrong kinds of recommendations being made and being taken seriously in not in good faith.
Don't panic VU. That comment's a good one. A 10-year plan when Congress works on 2-year cycles. I think like that makes sense as long as, the next administrations follow said 10-year plan. Because this is the thing, right? Like NASA and anything with regards to going out into the cosmos needs to work on a longer timeline, right? We need more just a 2-year cycle or even a 4-year presidential cycle. We need something that's a good, decent long-term plan. And this is part of where even like the Artemis program, I don't know. I'm a split brain of all of this, right? Because then the where I was going is like you need to have these good 10-year plans and these good long-term plans. But what happens when
Yeah.
you've got a long-term plan like Artemis, where it's clear that you should be like maybe not doing this plan, and then you're backed into a corner and like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you look at things historically and how the big movers and shakers have operated throughout aerospace history, it's always been these very long-term projects that end up being the most meaningful ones, right? I mean, Project Apollo, with all the resources that were dumped into it, you still had the better part, if not an entire decade of R&D, design and build, test, and then finally operations in order to actually accomplish your goal there. And sure, we were coming from building from scratch with something like that. But nowadays, I still feel like it's going to take the better part of a decade in order to actually get a significant program going. So long timelines do work very, very well for aerospace in terms of the stability of programs. It's just that these long timelines, at least long timings are not stuff that typically happens politically. And that's always the hard part of it is that I'm trying to figure out how to describe so many things today. The political power behind the ability to run a program is not necessarily in the end result 10 years down the line, but in the immediate results that your constituency can see as soon as you announce it. So, it's 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 a challenge. And I'm one that I'm not envious of the people who have to sit on this council and try to figure out how to approach these problems and figure out solutions without stepping on the toes of the multitude of people who want them. So
I'll add to your Project Apollo, which was built on Project Gemini, which was built on Project Mercury, which each of those were a couple or several years in the making, in order to be able to accomplish what we accomplished. And without a cohesive plan of what that arc should be, you can't ask for funding. If you don't get consistent funding, you can't execute. And if you can't execute, then you can't accomplish your goals. So I understand that there's a great desire to be flexible and be able to be reactive with a lot of this stuff, but the time scale that we're working on for most exploration is many years, if not decades, if not multiple decades, to be able to develop and build a program and show some execution and then wait for the results. Look at Voyager, who has been operating for 40 years. You're
coming up on 50 pretty soon.
Don't remind me. I'm old. But like that's a long time for money to be spent, and if you don't have it in the plan, then you can't execute and you can't get the kinds of results that you're looking for out of something that's got a long timeline like that.
I feel like there has to be a little bit of political maneuvering. Like if you do have a solid plan that sounds good, you've got all these milestones that are achievable. I feel like in order to have a good proposal that's going to last, you have to cut it up into phases that the political parties at be can take credit for. You can have this phase during this 4-year segment if it's a really long plan, and then have this phase that can be implemented whenever a next presidential administration comes in, and they can take all the credit for that so that that plan can stay. It feels like to me over the past 20-30 years there's been a lot of plans that were making decent progress, but change of administration, they're like, oh, that was the previous person's program. No, we're going to do my program, even though in the end it ended up being the same program anyway. So, and that's just me. It's kind of a little bit of political trickery to allow them to take credit for it and everyone feels good, but to stay on the course and keep the plan, but allow that bit of flexibility to change things as needed.
I have a proposal for you, Mike. What if we take those phases but call them blocks and say have block 1 and block 1B and block 2, and then everyone could take credit for each block, and we'll have block 1, which will do like, I don't know, 3 missions, and then we can have block 1B, which will do, say, a few more missions after that, and then we go to block 2. But we'll leave the rocket as it is, but we'll just replace the solid rocket boosters with like a new solid rocket booster design. And then we can have like 3 rockets for 3 presidents, and they can all do amazing things. Or we can just do one of them.
And just change the name, call it block 1, block 2, and then allow all the presidents to change the name for it. We're now doing the Trump phase of the plan. We're now doing the Newsom phase of the plan. We're now doing the Kelly phase of the plan. Whatever.
I don't want my phase of the plan being built on his.
No, that's cool. When you radically change the name of a program partway, that's called pulling a SpaceX, right? Version 1 to block 2 to
fuller
Mark
thrust
3, fuller thrust.
I was about to say, we could just do them as program numbers, right? Program number 1, program number 8, program number 9, program number 10. And then something happened to 11 and 14, so we just went straight to program number 15. I mean, who knows at this point? So it's all over the place.
Mike, you had asked who you'd like to see on the council, and I've been thinking about this for a minute, and I think I don't think it happened because I don't think the administration would like it, but I think one of the most influential people at NASA that created the largest amount of positive change that radically transformed the entire agency, and we still see the outcome of that today, is Lori Garver, right?
100% agree. 100%.
She's the one who brought in commercial space. She's effectively the one who fought for companies like SpaceX. Like, she had a vision, and everyone pushed against her. They're like, you're crazy, this isn't it. And she made it happen. And she had a great vision for the future, and she set she set the entire country up for success with that. And so I would love to see her. I'd love to see her on the council. I don't think that would happen in a million years, but yeah,
100%.
But I think you also need a lot of the industry partners that are available in there. So Peter Beck and whoever's the new head of relativity, and Elon and Tori Bruno, and
maybe Kathy Leaders to represent SpaceX.
Just to understand the realm of possible. So that companies can get involved early on and say, hey, look, we've already got this sort of thing, and you can be involved in the selection process, whatever. But like, these are the capabilities that we're aiming for, or we have these manufacturing capabilities that could be used to do X, Y, or Z, and you can get them in early and have them bear the brunt of the workload. And that does a number of things. You can then determine, where those jobs should go, so that you can have favored congressional districts, be able to pay for them. And, it can be a good thing for everybody across the board, and kind of share that whole pie amongst all of those players, to keep the engineering talent in those locations, to keep progressing towards the goal without stagnation and without cost overruns. Like, there's a lot of benefits that could be made from that.
Certainly. There's a couple of suggestions from the chat room too that I would like to point out. Aravel thinks that Wayne Hale would be good.
Oh, that's another really good one. Yeah. Yep.
Love him. It'd be great.
Jacob Bouchard thinks that Barbara Golf would be a good, and forgive me, guys, but I've kind of forgotten who that is. But Barbara Golf, that's who you say. Aravale again, Pete Warden and Scion Proctor would be good, since they've been on previous ones. Would love to see them return, absolutely. I certainly think that there has to be at least 1 or 2 astronauts on there, especially if it's for human spaceflight stuff, to actually have someone in the room who knows what it actually is going to be like to do that and be like, wait a minute, excuse me. What about this? What about that? Let's make sure that those types of things aren't forgotten about, and we don't put someone in a, 4x4 area for 6 months and have them go crazy with cabin fever if we're trying to do a Mars program or something like that. So a couple other suggestions from the chat room. Actually, this made me laugh. Lone Phoenix. I don't even know, but 2 to 3 other people in the space industry. What are the expertises best suited for this order? And that's kind of what got me thinking about it. At least 1 or 2 astronauts and someone else. Gamers too. We need gamers.
There's another person that I think had a really great and positive change on NASA. Interestingly, on the other side of the aisle, and that's Jim Bridenstine. I think it would be really great. He's a former administrator.
Yes.
He's Republican, and I was really, really worried because I was like, oh, this isn't like when he got confirmed of all the things but he ended up being he proved me wrong. I think he did great, phenomenal things for NASA. I think Lori Garver had a lasting impact that we're seeing to this day. But Jim was able to push through projects and really understood what needed to get done, for America, for the agency on on that level of scale, right? So I think that would be a great person in there as well.
Yeah, launching American astronauts on American rockets in American capsules from American launch pads.
That's him.
Space
That's him.
Center in an American state in American soil on the
Launch
American continent.
Launch America.
I like this suggestion too, Aravel. Garrett Reed would be a good one for someone from the astronauts to be a member of that.
Yeah. One astronaut I would love to throw in the mix is Eileen Collins, because she's just absolute expert and one of those legendary astronauts who is definitely always happy to help out and figure things out with that.
Mike
For my final
Massimino,
recommendation, Chris Hadfield. That would be fine.
Oh, we're allowed to have folks from outside the U.S. on this?
Probably not.
Because if we are, then let's throw Peter Beck in the mix as well on it. I think he'd be a very good perspective to have.
I wonder if he's
have a
got
go as well.
Hold up. We need to hit this in After Dark.
Okay.
Stick around.
Chibi.
Chibi, were you responsible for the ground umbilical carrier plate on the space shuttle?
Do you have a membership to? Are you a member? And can we get you in After Dark?
Because he's got some words for you.
I've got questions.
While we're working that, another person who I think has had a great impact on NASA and actually I think just aerospace as a whole, and would just be a truly remarkable candidate is me. I think I should be on the console.
I would actually be okay with that because you're a master communicator. You at least would be able to get people on the same page even when they have opposing views. So I would not be okay with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was going to say my final recommendation would be Dutta so that he can tell them when they're all stupid and ground them into reality.
Oh, I don't think that will go over very well.
That would not go over well at all. However, Dustin Sandlin would be a good position or a good candidate for that position.
The Space Council meetings would be streamed in perfect 4K, absolutely, and HDR. Let's go! I'd get this in front of everyone. I'd be like, hey, let's take questions from the community. Everyone gets a voice here. Let's go, YOLO. Let's have at it.
Heck yeah!
Should we throw
would be a good person to be in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, should we also throw Bill Nye in the mix so that we can cover space sciences and stuff like that? So,
by Bill Nelson. Right. No one said Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson.
You're
Bill
right.
Nelson
No
likes to
one
talk
did.
about China.
That's
Huh.
weird. No
Yeah.
one said Bill Nelson. Huh? That's weird.
Yeah. Jim
Almost like he
Bridenstine
wasn't
was the
invited to this
administrator for
party.
America, and then Bill Nelson was the administrator for China because he talked about China. He was like,
Yeah.
you have to beat the
I did-
Chinese. China.
I did not.
The Chinese
I did not
government.
think. Yeah, I don't think
China.
Senator Nelson did a great job of administrating NASA, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of sat there and was just like, huh,
Yeah,
I could do something.
but why when I get paid to not?
Huh.
All right.
All right, time for me to go on the stage and give a really awkward introduction to these to these people. So yeah, he was really good at that. So
But yeah, I think that I really hope that this does come together though, and that we can get good people on it. And if JD Vance doesn't want to head it up, maybe they can find someone else to be the head of this. And I feel like last time around they did have good recommendations. Again, not everything was adopted, but there was quite a lot that was. And yeah, things are in flux, and the Artemis program is probably going to change a lot before we see how what its conclusion might be. But I really do like those types of recommendations from experts who are qualified and know what they're talking about and have experience and all the sort of things. That whether or not Congress adopts their recommendations or not is another story, but I do like that sort of thing of having that group together to try to keep us on some sort of straight and narrow path. So just my opinion anyway.
yeah, I wonder like what would happen with JD Vance becoming if they were to choose him to be head of the National Space Council, considering that he comes from a venture capital background, and I would imagine almost certainly has in a multitude of investments in private spaceflight companies. Like would that possibly come into play, or like just something to throw out there? Don't know. So
Well, why don't we all watch for ourselves? And because I agree, I think this was a little bit subjective. So why don't we roll the video and see and hear for ourselves what this this test actually was. There we go. This was the first stage qualification testing of the fairing, which we have seen open and close before, but this time integrated with the kind of interstage canister with, obviously we see those grid fins moving around here. And we should be getting the test any second now, and we can finally put this to bed of what sound it makes. Let's see.
They're clearly canards, man. They're canards.
You're right. They're canards. Oh.
That's not the noise. That's not the noise. We want hosting noise. This is very much a
I know.
kaboosh.
And listen.
See, it's a ding. I heard a ding.
It's not a ding.
I heard a ding.
Sounds more like
It's
a
a
kerplunk to
plonk.
me.
It's a clonk.
I heard a ding.
It's a
I don't know about
plonk.
you guys. I heard
Plonk.
a ding.
but
Plonk.
it's
Plonk.
like plastic on plastic as it approaches the plonk. So it's not just a simple plonk. As someone who is like obsessed with sound design and stuff, this is not just a humble plonk. This is something significantly more than that. So don't try to pull the wool over my ears about this one. I've heard it.
Here's what I think. Ryan, your question sucked. I got one right. All right.
Was the real answer all of the above? Oh man.
I really do think, if you go back to the questions, I really do think he had it set up so that if I had guessed number one or number two, he could have flipped the answer and still been correct. Right? He created a question that would guarantee that I could not get it right if he didn't want me to.
I think you're noticing too much.
I think we should be honest and just talk about Neutron instead of coming up with these wildly incorrect conspiracy theories that, they don't benefit anyone.
Also, a huge thank you to Dave Avery, who week after week contributes 5 gift memberships to the show. Really appreciate it. That's the lifeblood of the show, helping to make it go. The question is, did what's his name get a membership?
Oh,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
No.
he
No.
has one.
Okay, good.
He has one,
I didn't think he was green before, but okay, I'll take your word for it.
He answered that he has one.
Okay,
We'll get him in though, and we'll tell that story in
Yeah,
in
Chibi.
After Dark.
You say he has one, but Chibi is coming up as not green in the chat room, which means he does not have one. Just so you know. Yep. All good.
Well,
Yes, Chibi.
I think that it's great. We got an update just a couple of months ago for Rocket Lab and the progress that they've been making on Neutron, and this was another one for the last one was kind of their report for Q4 of 2024. And this one is their report for Q1 of 2025. And they've been making excellent progress. Not only did we see that test of the interstage with its canards and the Hungry Hippo fairing opening and closing, which is
And it goes plonk.
goes plonk. Or all of the above, who knows? But they've been making a lot of progress on a lot of the other pieces, the dome pieces, which interestingly they've been transporting back and forth by helicopter, which is interesting to see. And they have been making excellent progress on the launch pad at Launch Complex 3 in Wallops Island, Virginia. And in fact, I even have another video pulled up to show a deluge test that they have done with their launch mount for it. And so things are moving right along. They'll hopefully be able to pull off these static firings of the first stage and the upper stage. They've already done a lot of. We have water.
We have water.
They've already done quite a bit of testing for the doing like not a full wet dress rehearsal, but doing tanking tests to see if the tanks that they have for the upper stage and the core stage are going to be able to handle the pressure that they have going on. And let me pause that. Sorry for the noise. So they've been making excellent progress, and it really does look to me like they will be able to at least do some static firings of an integrated rocket. They've already been doing several test firings of the individual engines, but I really believe that they'll be able to get everything together, and that's kind of the next step that they were talking about. They've been able to do all the qualifications for their structures. They've been able to do the engine qualification. They say that everything so far with Launch Complex 3 is pretty much ready to go. And maybe most importantly, they've gotten their regulatory approval going. So the next step is to integrate everything together and do those tests before, doing a full up wet dress rehearsal and doing their first launches. And also exciting, they've announced their first payload or paying customer for Neutron. They claim that they have payloads for it, but this is the first official one that they've announced, and it's actually for the Air Force doing the point-to-point cargo delivery. But not with the booster. We know that the booster of Neutron is going to be reusable, but whatever the upper stage delivers for this point-to-point cargo delivery is either going to have some sort of parachute system or some sort of maybe even a rocket propelled system to be able to land directly pinpoint to wherever they need that specific payload to go. And it's a multi-launch contract as well. So there's going to be quite a few of those that the Air Force wants to do over the years. I believe that Rocket Lab, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan, but I believe that Rocket Lab said that the first one of those launches for the Air Force will happen sometime in 2027, pending if there is any other delays with their development in the first launch. But I believe that that's what they said was 2027 for those Air Force launches.
I think they're still gunning for like a maiden launch sometime this year. Whether that materializes or not, obviously we'll just have to wait and see. But once they get that maiden launch out of the way, they'll then obviously be able to work on customer launches. So maybe late 2026, maybe 2027. But I think 18 months minimum is probably a realistic bet for that. And using Berger's law, that then means Q1 2027. So
Who's going to do
just have
point to
wait
point
and see.
first, Rocket Lab or SpaceX?
Rocket Lab. Well, define point to point, because SpaceX has already done it many times to the Caribbean. But intact Rocket Lab.
Yeah, intact delivery.
Intact.
An actual delivery someone can pick up
Yeah, like
to
you wouldn't
to land.
you wouldn't
not to the middle of
complain
the
to
ocean.
like if your package arrived as pieces, then you would register a complaint with FedEx, right? So like a non-complaintative delivery.
Since it's for military purposes, that whoever is on the receiving end of that would be able to grab it and process it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I know that there was talk of wanting to do that with Starship, but I don't know if they've actually gotten any contracts for it for sure. I could be wrong. They might already have
Have
that. It just hasn't been announced.
research. I don't know whether a grant is the correct term, but they have a research funding from the Space Force to point, and with it, the Space Force put out an illustration of something that looks very similar, but isn't exactly a Starship, landing in some kind of like remote area with humanitarian trucks driving out. So there's something in there with SpaceX with point to point. It's something that's definitely in the brain of Elon Musk, but Artemis, Mars.
Yeah, a lot of different things they want to do with that. So we'll see what comes first. But I'm kind of with you. I'm betting on Rocket Lab being the first one to do this, military point to point transport thing. Also, quick thank you to Sakura's Light, who just gifted another 5 memberships to folks in the chat room. So thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. Let's see. I just wanted to catch up with
And
a couple of things as well.
Chibi's a member.
All right. Thank you, Chibi. And we'll all be able to get that story in a little bit. All right. Was there anything else that we wanted to discuss when it comes to the Rocket Lab progress? Did we kind of go over that, or did you guys have any thoughts that
It's
you
just
wanted to share?
exciting to finally see something. I wish I like the investor updates every quarter, right? But could they do it like every month, maybe? Just give us something a little bit more often. I'm excited for the progress they're making. It's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really nice to see. All right. Well,
Jamie's in the Pixel Protection Program.
That was a fun one. That required like a full restart of Chrome and everything. Like the whole computer was like, everything's awful, and just dumped me.
Oh, man.
Time
thought
for
it
a
was
new
something we
computer, I
said.
think. Oh, yeah. Ryan's question pissed me off.
Oh, man. Well, with that, I think that we should probably end things and move over to the After Dark. But before we do, I do want to give a big shout out and thank you to everyone who supports us through the membership program. And we have quite a few new people who signed up for the ground support level since last week. I want to give a thank you to David Campbell, who has joined, Red Namak, Mark Sivon, Mir, Kenneth Neely, NRJ, and V-Sters, who have rejoined as ground support members. And then joining for the first time, we also have Matthew Chiavarella. I hope I pronounced your name right. Crosstron and Sonke FH. So thank you to everyone who is supporting us and who has helped us out week after week to be able to do the show. We wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. And very much appreciated that for everything that you guys are doing. And for those who have signed up as one of our YouTube members, you'll be able to get the notification and tune into our After Dark show, where we sometimes talk about some of the space stuff, a lot of non-space stuff, and kind of share personal stories and other things that are going on. So if you have that, be sure to tune in to hear story that has piqued all of our interest as to why Dutta missed a shuttle launch, apparently. So
Let's be clear. I
Again?
don't wait for After Dark. I just tell you my personal stories in the middle of the main show. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's a little preview that you guys get for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more stories about your computer, Dave Avery says. Obviously, it's touchy about criticism.
Apparently.
Maybe that's why it's going down. So again, big thank you to everyone for being here and for joining us today. And stay tuned, and we will be starting After Dark momentarily. So thank you again to everyone.